Hi everyone, it's Carissa at Sprinkled with Glitter. Today I have a card project that uses several die sets from We Are Memory Keepers and Lifestyle Crafts. The star of the show is really going to be this nesting balloons die set. And you're not seeing the smallest, which are the ones I'm going to be using, but I wanted to show you that some of these bigger dies would be really fun to cover the whole front of a note card or to make shape cards with. But I'll put these back in and you'll see the small ones I'm going to use. I'm also going to be using the Banner It kit and these nesting clouds along with this Hip Hip Hooray paper pad from We Are Memory Keepers. This paper pad is a lot of fun. It's got bright colors, fun patterns, and I could really see it being useful for children's birthday cards. And I've pulled out the patterns that I'm going to use and the colors that I'm going to use, and those are these right here. So just a nice mix of bright colors pulling in the colors from that stripe. I'm starting out with a piece of Neenah Solar White cardstock, and this is the Celebrate. It's one of two that comes in the Celebrate pack of embossing folders from Lifestyle Crafts. And I'll just place my Neenah Solar White cardstock in there. And I have some vellum. I'm going to cut a couple of clouds, but I want to cut them at once, so I'm just going to layer up a couple pieces of vellum. The banner is going to be cut out of the white cardstock as well, and then these little balloons here are going to be cut out of the pattern papers. So I'm going to start by embossing this piece. I have my Evolution tool and my Genius platform, and I'm just using the B plate to run that through the machine. And then I will line up all of my dies on the Genius platform as well. Now it's magnetic, so those dies will stay in place, and I have all of them on there, but you can't see that. And this time I'm going to use the A plate. So A is for cutting, B is for embossing, and I'll just run all those through, and I have several papers stacked up at once so that I can cut them all at the same time. Now that I have all those pieces cut, I'm going to bring in my craft sheet. I'm just going to add a little bit of color to these clouds so they'll pop off of the white background that I'm going to be using on. And then I'll flip them over and I'll use my Wink of Stella clear glitter pen to add some shimmer to those clouds as well. And it's just going to add a little bit of interest to the card. And I'll pick up those clouds right here and kind of try to show you that. It's really subtle, but a really pretty effect, especially on that vellum. So I've set those aside to dry, and those won't take long, but I brought in all of my balloons. And I'm going to be adding silver, not gold. Aren't you proud of me? I stayed away from gold this time, but I'm going to be using this silver twine. And I want these to be really dry when I go to work with them later. So I'm using some Tombow Mono multi glue and just tying a knot and then attaching, just kind of sticking those on. And I'm going to do that with all of the balloons so that later on when I go to put them on the card front, that string is nice and dried on there. And that Tombow Mono multi glue is really good for this. And now it's time for a sip of coffee in the middle of all this. It's a cold day and I always have my coffee on hand, but we'll get back to the card. I have this Simon Says stamp greeting set. It's the handwritten greetings. And I have my banner here. And I'm just going to be embossing this sentiment in some silver embossing powder. So I'll prep that banner with my powder tool there. And I'm just going to curve this sentiment on my block just to match the shape of the banner. And I'm just kind of checking it out there. And then once I get that just right, I can ink it up in the Versamark ink and I'll stamp it onto my paper. And I'll just bring in a piece of scrap paper here and some Zing Silver embossing powder, and this is apparently a brand new bottle of it. I had no clue that I have never opened this, but I'll just take that off and I'll sprinkle it over that part where I stamped, and then I'll just use my tweezers to pick it up and kind of flick off the excess, and then I can use my heat tool to really melt that, and it's just a fun silver greeting. I've taken this embossed piece and I've just ran a line of silver stitching around the border of it. And I have my card base here. This is cut to 4 1/4 by 11 and it's scored at 5 1/2. And I just like to use my bone folder to get a nice good crease. And then I'll take this strip of pattern paper. This is just that striped paper that I pulled out earlier, and I'm kind of fussing with my card base there. It wasn't quite straight. And I will just adhere that piece of striped paper to my card base. I'm going to put it on that left side and I'll just use some regular tape runner adhesive. So I'm just using my ATG gun here and I will bring in my grid mat and kind of just line it up there. It looks like this piece is 1 inch wide exactly. I can tell by my grid mat there. So I've got that mounted and trimmed, And then I'm going to bring in this emboss piece, and I am going to put a ton of adhesive on this because these emboss pieces really want to pull off of the card, especially since I stitched around the edge too. So I'm just going to cover this really well in some adhesive, and then I can place it onto my card front and really smooth it out. Now another option is to use foam tape for this to kind of keep it from bowing also. I'm going to go ahead and temporarily adhere this banner. Now when you cut the banner out, it has these score lines in it, so there's no guesswork. I've just folded those back, and I'm adding a small piece of foam adhesive right behind those folds, and it's just going to keep it from flattening out on the card when I eventually do permanently adhere it to the card. And now I can bring in my clouds. I'm just getting an idea for where I want everything positioned. I'm just going to add a little bit of Tombow Mono Multi-Glue. Now I want to be able to hide this later, so I'm not putting it all over the cloud, just on a little corner to keep it adhered down. And I will just put those right in the center of that circle area of the embossing and put those there. So I'm building up my shapes here. I've brought in my balloons now, and they all have, or I'm putting on, one layer of foam adhesive, but eventually some of these will get 2 layers of adhesive. So I'm going to start from the back and kind of work forward. So I'll adhere this teal one on. It just has the 1 layer of foam adhesive. Now I want the red one to sit over the top of this, so this is going to add a little more dimension. So I'm going to take that red balloon, and I'm going to pull off the backer sheet on that 1 layer of foam adhesive and just add a 2nd layer right over it. And this is going to do a couple of things. It's going to add more dimension to the card, but later on when I add the glossy accents, it's going to keep it from being one big blob of glossy accents as well. So the yellow one sits behind, and that has 1 layer. The green balloon has just 1 layer, and then the aqua balloon has 2 layers as well. Now that cloud was kind of poking up there, so I just snuck a little more Tombow Mono Multi-Glue behind that. And now I can go ahead and I'm going to permanently adhere my banner. So I've just pulled that off, and I'm going to pull all these strings down through the center of the banner. And you'll see when I flip that banner over, I have another bit of foam adhesive there, and I'm just going to pull all those strings through the middle. And I'll put some Tombow Mono Multi-Glue on the ends of those banners and just adhere it to the front of the card. So the ends are flat on the card and the middle part kind of sticks up. And this is why I wanted all those strings really good and dry when I put them on, because I knew I was gonna be fussing with the strings, and I didn't want to be pulling them off of the balloons. So I've just gathered all the little cord or twine here, and I'm tying them all in a knot, and then I'll trim the bottoms off, and I'm just gonna let it hang. I'm not gonna adhere the knots or anything. I'm just gonna let it kind of hang freely. And then to bring these balloons to life, I'm going to add glossy accents. Now I actually added 2 layers of glossy accents, so the first layer and let it dry, and then I added a 2nd layer over it. And I was just going to show you this quick tip for glossy accents when you're done with it. Just tap it on your work surface to get all that glossy accents down, and then squeeze it to get the glossy accents out of the nozzle and wipe it with a baby wipe, and then you can put your lid back on it. So there's the card for today. I have links over on YouTube for all the supplies, and also over on my blog at sprinkledwithglitter.com. So you can see all those, also more information at sprinkledwithglitter.com. And don't forget, when you're shopping at shopweare.com, you can use the coupon code GLITTER to save 20% off your We Are Memory Keepers products. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a fabulous day.